On this episode of AV Week, protecting AV designs against patent fights, securing your AV systems from security hacks, and Biamp purchases Neat, the control systems company. All that and more next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 514, recorded Friday, June 25th, 2020. AV goes to Washington.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Crestron and by
Sennheiser. For over 75 years, Sennheiser has been a leader in pro audio and is now offering a wide variety of touchless and traditional audio solutions for both corporate and educational campus-wide audio.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week. First and foremost, Charmaine Torella, and I can't roll my R's. She's from Barracks. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Mr. Albright.
Also with us, a young lady that I met, I guess about a month or so ago, but she comes to us by way of a week ago with AV3, but also Kierkegaard. Bren Walker, welcome, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Tim. Nice to be here.
And you did a fantastic job. And if you want to check out Bren's keynote, you can still watch it on demand. Go to the AV3event.com. You do have to register, but that's a small thing. And go watch her keynote, but also me and Megan introducing some smart people. From Avixa, by way of Atlanta, Joey Lloyd. Welcome, ma'am.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
And last but not least, my buddy from the other part of Canada, Bren's from British Columbia, Matt's basically from Detroit, but London, Ontario. So how are you, sir?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right. First story comes to us from our friends over at SCN and AVNetwork.com. Biamp has announced the acquisition of Neets, an AV control system company from Denmark. Per the release, quote unquote, Neets offers a family of controllers, interfaces, and software that would expand on Biamp's existing control options. There are some Neets products actually available on Amazon, which I find interesting. I'm not quite sure how long that will last. Neets does have an app on the Apple Store for control, so you can at least check that out for right now. Charmaine, we're going to start with you on this. What does this mean for the AV market as Biamp expands on control?
It means Biamp is getting into the control market share, which means other people who are already there are going to experience a little bit of shrinkage, especially now. Also, Neat, the product itself. So, the control application or the control solution they're putting forth is for really small, mid-size rooms, not the big, complex rooms. So it's supposed to be easy to deploy, drag and drop, configuration, which means for the integrator, for us, it's going to be cheaper to implement, which means cheaper for the customer, which means the customer is probably going to look to those options more than the more high cost option. But the concern is Neat is Danish, Denmark. I don't think many people stateside have heard of them. So I'm going to be really curious to see how Biamp rolls that product set out, basically with their solution set to make us familiar. And yeah, you're right, it is on Amazon. And the question of warranty coverage, what's that about? All those things are going to come into question because something like that, and I know on their website, 14-day guarantee money back. Now, in the commercial world, that's not going to really work. So to see how Biamp is going to roll that out, definitely interested to see that solution for now, post-pandemic, more small, more mid-market, mid-sized rooms instead of large conference rooms. A lot more rooms like that are coming into play.
Charmaine, are you finding that companies, and particularly those in the military sector, are looking for control outside of China for software and products that are not there just due to safety and security? So do you think that, even though you mentioned they're Danish, do you think that that will be something that people might latch onto?
Depends on the industry. So not necessarily government, as you mentioned, Joey, but it depends on the industry. I don't think government is going to look at this particular solution because of where it's manufactured, right, where it came from. But I think that other industries might, small asset management, smaller hedge funds, maybe. But yeah, I don't think government will look at this quite yet. Again, it's going to depend on how Biamp rolls this out. The information, we need to know more. You know, more needs to be told about Neets.
All right. Matt, interesting piece here, and not for nothing, but Biamp has done a number of acquisitions with Rashid Skaff as the head. They are part of Highland Partners. So most of, and I'm saying this a little bit hesitantly, I believe most of, if not all of the acquisitions they've purchased since Highland Partners purchased Biamp, those products and those brands have all stayed put. Meaning when they purchased community speakers, when they purchased the microphone app, what's it? Crowd mics. Good Lord, the name just went out of my head. Those brands have always already stuck. With the fact that Neets is kind of a consumer-ish product, do you see this where Biamp is going to do what they've done in the past, which is kind of add the Neets brand and everything into their infrastructure, or just buying them for the IP, for the intellectual property, and rolling that into Biamp control?
I don't know. I would argue that unless Neets holds a much larger level of name recognition to the ISC crowd, the European crowd, that there's no real benefit in keeping it as a standalone nameplate. Whereas with community or crowdsource, crowd mics, those companies have an established name that means something to people. If you take community speakers and just rebrand them as Biamp speakers, then you have to almost tell the story of, well, it's a community speaker, but it's got the Biamp logo, and you go down that rabbit trail. With Neets, as I said, unless they have a massive name recognition in the U.S. in Europe, there's no real negative to rolling that into their primary brand and their primary branding. The one pushback might be, or maybe the added benefit might be, because they may have some awareness on Amazon. A very easy way to eliminate that awareness and disconnect from that is to rebrand it. And, I think we hate on the fact that they're on Amazon because, well, they're on Amazon. But that's not really necessarily a bad thing, given where it looks like they play in the market, right? If that's something where a tech manager or a on-site IT staff can look at it and get some understanding and some knowledge of what it is, let's be honest, they're already shopping on Amazon. It might just be a really easy way for Biamp to continue to move some numbers and maintain it on Amazon. I can't speak to how Biamp's going to approach it. I don't think that they're going to make a major misstep one way or the other.
All right. Joey, we mentioned the fact that you work for Avixa, but in your previous life you also worked for a manufacturer. Take a kind of both sides of this, and talk for a second about the challenges that are involved in bringing a new brand and bringing a new company in.
Well, I think from the manufacturer side, anytime you're looking at partnering, buying, bringing that new product in, there's all the questions of how does it work. You spend a lot of time on the business side and the financials, but when you actually get down into the nitty gritty of how it works, there always seems to become engineering questions and whatnot. And it's certainly a challenge to bring in new products and services into your existing business. But on the same note, when you can buy something that's really great and partner with another company, and you just don't have the internal know-how to do it, and you can go get it already done, as long as it's not necessarily a bolt-on, it doesn't feel like a bolt-on, but it really feels like a part of your package. I think that's a smart way to go. And I think, Charmaine, you certainly said it well in talking about how this will affect the business and those in the player space that are going to feel the ramifications of it. So, we're watching acquisitions, all over the marketplace, and I think it will continue to pick up momentum as we roll into the next few years to see how the market is coming together.
Bren, talk for a second from kind of a designer standpoint and a 50,000-foot view about control in general. Charmaine mentioned the fact that Biamp getting into this space means that there may very well be less for some of the other players involved. Where does that kind of put Biamp? I mean, it's nothing against Neets, but they are not the number one or number two control system when people think about AV control. So, what does Biamp now have to do to become front of mind for folks like you, but also for folks like Matt and Charmaine?
Well, I think part of it depends on really what was underneath this acquisition. There's product, obviously, but the word that I keyed in on when I read about it was the software. And are they getting, some rock star software developer talent? Because that doesn't necessarily exist at other manufacturers, which I think is the long-term play. So from a standpoint, I'm working on a project now that will open in 2027. I don't expect a whole lot of touch panels in that building. I expect a lot of that control is going to be bring your own device. Certainly that's where things should be moving, one would think, and we'd be seeing more, like as with everything else, more software-based than hardware-based. So I like it. Because I think the more choice there is for controls, obviously for us the better it is in terms of for those of us who want to do design, we do real design and try to push things. So I'm all keyed in on the software aspect of it. I thought this morning, in fact, about a box that I have full of all these old Palm Pilots and handheld devices and how none of that tech matters anymore and how touch panel tech is going to go away. It's obvious. We're voice activating at home. We've got a touch screen in our pocket. After a while, you'll only need that hardware in applications where you can't do it another way.
Thanks so much for watching this first segment of AV Week. To check out the rest of the episode for free, click on the link below or go by the website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv.